Hello, hello. Welcome to K.I.S.S Recovery 101. This is Bridge, the host tonight. Sarah's running a little late. She will be here co-hosting with me tonight for the first time. This is awesome. And then I have an awesome guest. I'm not even going to ramble. I'm just going to let you introduce yourself, guest.
Hey, my name is Ashley Grimes, and I'm a person in long-term recovery from both substance use disorder and co-occurring mental health disorders, and I'm also a suicide survivor. I do all kinds of stuff. I'm the treasurer of an RCO. I'm the president of NAMI, Florida. I'm a certified peer recovery specialist. I also have my PMP. I'm in school for my MBA. And I'm a part of a lot of professional organizations. My joke is that for like every stigmatizing thing I have in my life, I like try to put a non-stigmatizing thing on the other side to like balance it out.
I like that.
Yeah, even things out, the scales. So that's who I am in a nutshell.
Yes, and why don't you tell the listeners? So this is you're a virtual guest. Tell the listeners where you are located.
I'm located in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, it's hotter here than it is there, I'm sure.
Oh yes, and I'm not going to complain. It's actually not bad here. No snow, and it's actually reasonable. So I'm so excited because I asked you like what we could, what you'd want to talk about, maybe or bring up, and what I love about NAMI is, well, first of all, for those listeners who don't know, it's the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And for myself, I definitely came into the recovery world with co-occurring, or what can be known as dual diagnosis conditions. And I think, honestly, I got to say, most people that have some type of substance use disorder likely have some kind of mental health thing going on as well, whether it started before or became, after. And just the awareness piece is huge, because where I started my journey into recovery, there was a lot of traditional old 12-step views that it was. I actually had one person, and this person doesn't represent that whole community, tell me not to take my medications because I wasn't staying abstinent. Big problem, red flag.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to really help bring awareness. I think it's just a lot of people not knowing and being educated on what everything, what it all entails. So with NAMI, I'll just give a little blurb on that quickly. It says, okay, so if you go to the website, it's fantastic, NAMI, NAMI.org. They actually have this. You can call them at 800-950-6264 or text them 24/7, and it's totally confidential. You just text NAMI, NAMI, to 741-741, and they will help you, assist you, especially if you're really struggling, get you some answers, get you started, listen to you. And I feel like there's so much shame surrounding mental health. What do you think on that, Ashley?
I think so too, but I mean, when you look at the numbers, there's more people struggling with it than aren't struggling with it. So when we don't talk about it and we have this shame and we hide alone, like it doesn't help anybody, because we think we're alone in these issues, and in reality, there's more people struggling than aren't struggling.
Absolutely. And I feel like the shame is what kept me feeling like I couldn't talk about it, or I would be judged, or I would, it was definitely keeping me sick. And if you go to the website, there's a search bar, and you can search. There's so many great articles and blogs and information. And one of the things that I pulled up on the website is his article talks about, we need to grow our community support systems to treat substance use disorder and mental illness on par with the way we manage physical health. While addiction treatment and psychology care aren't always physically visible, they too are life saving and require ongoing coordinated care management. As a community, we need to talk about mental health issues, the way we discuss. Like we would discuss a heart surgery or somebody with diabetes treatment, because the more we talk about it, the more awareness there is, creating better outcomes and ongoing recovery. So what do you think about that?
Well, it's interesting that you bring up diabetes because I'm a diabetic, and
Oh,
this
wow.
weekend I've struggled with high sugars, like in the ranging from 400 and the 500s. And I'm going to tell you that as I haven't had a couple like struggles with my depression, but nothing like this weekend. This weekend, like I could barely stay awake a majority of the weekend, and just getting up and answering a text message was a lot of work. And I almost
Yeah.
wanted to like give in to that. Like, one time I checked my sugar, it was 527, which is ridiculously high.
Wow.
But sugars cause you mentally to go into depression. They mimic the feelings of, being intoxicated. You fall asleep and you can't wake up. And so when we don't talk about these co-occurring things, I'm sure I'm not the only diabetic that struggles with depression and high sugars bringing on feelings of not wanting to wake up. So,
Oh, yeah.
but how many people are aware that that's the reason that their depression is acting up,
Right. Well, and okay, so the clip that we're gonna play that you sent me, I mean, we're gonna play a short clip from it, is fantastic because there's also that double standard or that double view when it comes. There is a big difference for women and men, period.
Mm-hmm.
And I know as a woman, as a caregiver, and as a mom, I felt these expectations of I got to handle everything. It's just expected of me to take care of the kids, to take care of my job, school, everything, do everything. And then of course, then I put myself last on the list, and then I'm not taking care of myself. And then I think it's my fault and something's wrong with me. And I am the first person to blame myself,
Mm-hmm.
to take that blame.
And it's
Um,
exhausting. It's
it's so
exhausting.
exhausting. Yes. Yes. And not even realizing it a lot of times, not even catching myself. Um, but yeah, okay, so let's jump into the clip. And then we'll go from there because there's, oh my gosh, we just don't have, Sarah just got here. We just don't have, an hour is not enough time. So I'm going to play the clip that you sent me. So I'm going to just give the information that you can go. So I found it on YouTube. The short clip I got is from the channel Official Tech, and it's called "We're Raising Our Girls to Be Perfect, and We're Raising Our Boys to Be Brave." And her name, I'm going to try to pronounce it, is Reshma. I'll spell last name Saujani. Okay, so let me get the clip going here. Okay, so we'll have to be quiet. And okay, so it's 2 minutes and 43 seconds.
Risk and failure. They're taught to smile pretty, play it safe, get all A's. Boys, on the other hand, are taught to play rough, swing high, crawl to the top of the monkey bars, and then just jump off head first. And by the time they're adults, and whether they're negotiating a raise or even asking someone out on a date, they're habituated to take risk after risk. They're rewarded for it. In the 1980s, psychologist Carol Dweck looked at how bright fifth graders handled an assignment that was too difficult for them. She found that bright girls were quick to give up. The higher the IQ, the more likely they were to give up. Bright boys, on the other hand, found the difficult material to be a challenge. They found it energizing. They were more likely to redouble their efforts. My friend Lev Bree, who's a professor at the University of Columbia and teaches Intro to Java, tells me about his office hours with computer science students. When the guys are struggling with an assignment, they'll come in and they'll say, "Professor, there's something wrong with my code." The girls will come in and say, "Professor, there's something wrong with me." What's going on? Well, at the 5th grade level, girls routinely outperform boys in every subject, including math and science. So it's not a question of ability. The difference is in how boys and girls approach a challenge. And it doesn't just end in 5th grade. An HP report found that men will apply for a job if they meet only 60% of the qualifications. But women? Women will apply only if they meet 100% of the qualifications. In other words, we're raising our girls to be perfect, and we're raising our boys to be brave. The bravery deficit is why women are underrepresented in STEM, in C-suites, in boardrooms, in Congress, and pretty much everywhere you look. We have to socialize our girls to be comfortable with imperfection, and we gotta do it now. We have to teach them to be brave in schools and early in their careers when it has the most potential to impact their lives and the lives of others. And we have to show them that they will be loved and accepted, not for being perfect, but for being courageous.
I love that. Okay, I just want to welcome Sarah has made it into the studio. You want to say hello, Sarah?
Hello, welcome. Thank you for having me here. And oh my God, that was absolutely stunning. I don't think I've heard that before.
The clip? Oh, I know. And Ashley sent that to me. So, Ashley, do you want to give your take on why you chose that clip?
I just love it because, number one, she's the one that founded Girls Who Code. So I don't know if you're like familiar with that organization, but that's the founder. And I think it's so true. You know, like we put this double standard on ourselves. I can tell you I do it. I'll listen to everyone else's problems and I'll be able to empathize with them and be like, geez, you know, you're being so hard on yourself. Like, give yourself a break. But then for myself, like, I'm like, you can't feel this way. You can't, you know, you need to show it perfectly. You need to make sure your makeup's done. You need to like, and I mean, growing up, it was like that too, you know, and, you know, I don't know how familiar everybody is with anonymous people, but, you know, they talk about, you know, shame and secrets. And that's where, you know, addiction lives. It lives in the shadows and it lives in shame. And if you ever heard me, you know, on Recovery Revolution, I talk about, you know, the opposite of addiction is connection. And shame is, for me, is just where my problems start.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Brene Brown talks about that a lot. And she says that, you know, the antidote for shame is actually empathy. And when she said that, at first it was confusing. And then she went further to say that it really comes down to having empathy initially for ourselves. Like, the stronger we have empathy for oneself gives us that ability to really empathize with others, but it grows our own empathy for ourselves. I couldn't forgive myself for all kinds of reasons, but you know, I was in a severe deep depression for years. First of all, I wasn't getting diagnosed properly, so I wasn't being medicated properly, but like I was blaming myself for not being able to get better. And I know Sarah was actually just on a radio show earlier, and we were talking about shame too, and how that feeling of shame, especially in the recovery community, can be so strong that a person would rather choose death than to address the shame.
Yeah, and I was also going to add too, for me, this is very close to my heart. It amazes me that, you know, I heard the comment, the opposite of addiction is connection, and being among that, I realize that is absolutely 100% accurate. However, I would love to learn how to bridge that gap of women who are so ashamed of themselves for relapsing or having something come up that instead of staying connected, they run and they hide and they lie and we lose them.
100%. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ashley.
I was just going to say, I wish there was a way to let them know that that's not what we would choose for them. You know, that their lives matter so much more than that shame.
Well, and that's the thing is like I was stuck in that same cycle and pattern of thinking for years. I got to that point where I didn't even realize I was lying to myself. I got so sick and mentally ill that I didn't even realize I wasn't even being a person, if that makes sense. Like I say, one of the biggest things that I used to regret, with making an amends to my children was that, yes, I made sure they ate and they did their homework and they had their rides and I was there, quote unquote, there, but I wasn't really there. I wasn't present. They're this loving person, mom that's supposed to be there and like listen to them and have that really quality relationship with them. I was an empty shell of a person. I was a ghost when I look back. It wasn't me. And it would make me sad to think about all them years where I was just basically a robot doing the motions, doing these things society expected of me, doing these things that, put on this good front. For years, I got away. I would say I got away with it, but I had this beautiful front, but on the inside, I was dead. If that makes sense. And I feel like because society, if I would talk about, when I started just seeing a therapist in the beginning, all my coworkers would be, talking behind my back and asking weird questions. And so right away, I knew I couldn't be like open with them, and so I feel like, luckily with recovery, it allows you when I was able to finally let my guard down, it allowed me to really find people I could trust and just be my open self without the judgments.
Well, speaking of that, let's call out some mom groups, because I think that's where a lot of this starts. I don't want to blame mom groups. Let me take that back a step. But when we're as moms, we go to these groups to try to get support, and instead we get this like almost like hate about you're not strapping your child in the car seat right, you're not feeding them the proper diet, there's ways to educate somebody on things if they're not aware that aren't mean. But I feel like as moms, we need support. We need to support each other. It's a hard job and no one does it perfectly. But when we go to these groups where we're supposed to get support and then it makes us feel like even worse of a mom, like the shame, that's where a lot of the shame like starts too.
We just always feel like we're never good enough.
Right. And even other moms think we're not good enough. Like, how fun is that?
And I think also part of that too comes from, I swear to God, with women, this criticism comes from the fact that they feel the need to beat others down so they can get a leg up, because we're constantly being stepped on.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to, I have some great memes, ladies, tonight. And we're going to just dip right on in that. And I feel like, especially if you're a younger female, if you're smart, if you're confident, like I would think that, I'm all about building each other up and like support each other. But I find that there's a lot of females that aren't in a good place. I feel like aren't secure with themselves and maybe even probably don't even love themselves. Just immediately hate on me without knowing anything about me. Like immediately have judgments and want to like, just do those things that you hear about all the time, or you see on movies or TV shows. I mean, there's TV shows and movies. Mean Girls. Hello. Mean Girls. I mean, it just thrives on that female competition.
It's all about it's competition.
All it is. And it doesn't need to be that way.
And scarcity. Like there is enough positions in the world. Like we don't have to fight over positions and titles. We should support each other and bring more people to the table. other women to the table, like instead of pushing each other down, which gets less women at the table.
But unfortunately, that's not how society makes us feel like that's how it should be.
I agree.
Okay, and okay, so let me finish up what I wanted to say about NAMI. So anyone who's listening and new to the show, so our first segment we're going to be coming up on, I don't know if you caught it, but we had the first alarm, is called the hot seat. So our guest Ashley, and Sarah knows how this feels, is going to get 3 hot and heavy questions that are deeper questions, and you're just free to answer as you feel comfortable. And then after that, we're going to go into the segment called Live Facebook Memes. And that is just memes that I, for whatever reason, screenshotted late nights in my bed for entertaining myself. But they could be funny, or they could be inspiring, or they could be, I just feel like they're great conversation pieces. And I'm going to flash those to Ashley and the viewers and listeners. And then you're just going to, like Facebook, you're going to, like it or heart it, laugh out loud, and then you're free to comment as you would if you were on Facebook. But what I wanted to say is I found, so digging into NAMI and just dual diagnosis and co-occurring, what I love that they point out is there's actually this group I never even heard of. So tomorrow I'm actually going to go into work and research more where I can find some more local stuff, but I think it's all, I'll have to go online, but it says what we need more of. So building okay, so as a community, we need to talk about mental health issues the way we discuss, okay, I said that already, but building an effective recovery support system works best when it starts with the community involvement. And so some of the things that he suggests is there's this great program or group called Double Trouble, DTR, Double Trouble in Recovery. They are a 12-step fellowship for people that are managing both mental illness and substance use disorders, which I thought was wonderful.
What?
I know, DTR. So I'm actually, when I go find more, what's actually current, I don't know what the dates were on some of that stuff. I'm going to send that out to anybody because yes, I know of other groups that have, I don't know of any groups that are directly pertain to someone in recovery with substance use disorder, and for sure a mental health disorder, or you could have multiple like myself. Okay, and I'm loud and proud about it. Like, I openly am an open book. I want to talk about it because I feel like the more I talk about it, the more other people, the more other women, especially moms and anyone, will feel comfortable talking about it, because it took me 40 years to not be ashamed about it. So, okay. So I have this fantastic sound effect. Whoa, that is not it. Go back. Okay. Oh, I'm messing it up.
It's beautiful.
That was tranquil sounds. Okay, no, I want the fire sound. What happened? It won't do it. What is going on?
It wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, maybe I just need to update my stuffs. It's not letting me. That's okay. So I don't know how to make a hot sound.
Crackle.
Okay, so Ashley, are you ready? We're gonna do the hot seat.
I'm as ready as I'm going to be, I think.
Okay. Question number 1. Okay, what's one childhood fear you haven't told anyone about?
I don't know about not telling anyone, but I'm afraid of squirrels.
You're afraid of squirrels?
Yes. So my kindergarten teacher said if a squirrel comes up to you, then that means that they have rabies. And so every time, I live in Florida, there's a lot of squirrels, and I'm terrified of squirrels. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, that's valid. That's very valid. And that's just okay. I won't go into that. I could say a bunch of other things that are funny, but there's a big ass raccoon in front of my house the last couple of days. I didn't realize how big those bastards are. Okay, but on videos they look cute. And
They are cute.
they're cute. They're from afar.
They're
Now
not
when they're
cute.
10 feet in front of you, I'm like, that's where I thought of rabies. Okay. Question number 2. Ashley, where do you go when you need inspiration?
This is gonna sound weird, but probably the 2 places is either the internet to learn something new, because when I'm down or when I feel like blah, like if I learn something, it like gets me like excited and I want to learn as much as possible about it. Or like the springs. The springs are like my peaceful place where I like go. My phone doesn't work, and the cold water. So it depends on
nature.
yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Fantastic. Those are great. And I have what's called it's a guaranteed joy list. And it's only 3 things, but I mean I have a bigger joy list, but these are 3 guaranteed things to bring me joy. So
I
I
love
recommend
that.
everyone having that. Yes, and I never had to use it until a couple months ago, and I'm so glad that I was in such a dark spot. I forced myself to go to do one of the things on my list, and I up until I got to that place, actually out of my house to the place that is on my list, I literally was my inner mean girl was talking me out of doing it. Like she was saying, "This ain't gonna work. You are not gonna be happy. You don't deserve it." Like my inner mean girl is such a bitch. Okay. And question number 3. What's one thing oh, this is a good one. What's one thing your last relationship taught you?
That I matter, and that's what's important to me matters, and I can't give from an empty well.
I love that.
Yes. 100%. Okay, I have totally forgotten about the listeners. Sorry, listeners. So I see there's interactions. Let's take a look at what we got going on here. Oh, Mahana's on Rise of Power. Okay, Mahana says, "I love how you shared about your diabetes." Um, Hi, Amy, with that can mimic the depression as well, and that would be considered a co-occurring disorder. Such a powerful clip that we played. I'm a huge believer in mental wellness. I do love the wellness word better. He says, shame is what can ruin lives. If we could get rid of shame, the world would be a much better place to live. I truly believe that from the bottom of my heart. Society has not helped that making women feel that they don't belong, that they are inadequate. And men have played a big factor in that because of their own insecurities. Wow. Ooh, he just put that shit out there. So I could say a lot
Talk about being brave.
Yes. Well,
Yes.
and you know what's fantastic is here's a perfect evidence-based statement. Well, I won't make a statement, but just on this podcast alone, okay, I wanted to have this podcast because I felt like there's great recovery podcasts out there, not where there's a female headlining it.
It's male dominated.
It's very male dominated, and that's just in the rooms in general. And then you think about the bigger picture. I mean, that's how it is. But here's the kicker. I've asked plenty of what I think are strong, confident women to come on the show, and they turn me down. Isn't that mind blowing? Because I'm like, let's build each other up. Let's give each other a voice. Let's, like put that out there, because unfortunately, without as many women speaking up, all the women listening aren't hearing, being able to connect in that like direct way. And what I found that with your clip is true to the statement. Like, if we feel as a woman, sometimes a girl, especially growing up, I felt like if I wasn't going to get it perfect, I'm not even going to try, or I would give up right away. Like, I felt like instead of, putting my best foot forward and, oh, I mess up, it's okay. Like, failure was the ultimate worst possible outcome.
Yeah.
Does that
I mean,
make
even after my weekend, I wanted to, be like, oh, I don't feel good. I don't want to come tonight, and it was like one of those things. I'm like, if I don't show up, I'm not being authentic to, who I say I am if I don't show up when I'm not at my best. So, here I am being authentic.
I can relate. That's why I'm literally late today, because I was gonna try and do this from home because I was having a hard time. I was just feeling run down, and wasn't gonna be fulfilling my promises.
Right.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Yes. And I find that most of my successes now in recovery have been totally action based. I just don't even think about it. If I hear something and I know it's right, the right thing to do, the next right thing to do, I just do it. Where before I was imprisoned in my own mental health, wellness, illness, whatever you want to call it. So, but it took, years. And a lot of now, I mean, the world, there is way more out there. Like I could find more, but 17 years ago, I didn't have none of that. None of that. I was trapped. I would feel trapped in my home. So, what's interesting too, Ashley, Sarah and I had a great discussion about labels. And I feel like, especially as a female who's a caregiver and taking care of children as a mom, there's so many immediate expectations put on that I didn't even put on myself. Like, it's okay if a guy gets drunk and has a couple rough nights and acts so crazy. If a mom has a rough night and, acts, a fool, she's immediately punished. And I find that with mental health, I mean, it's the same thing. Oh, she crazy. Oh, something's wrong with her. And it's infuriating.
Yeah, but and I think that when we talk about this stuff, if you don't think that you're crazy, that might be the time you should probably go get checked out, because we're all crazy. We need to embrace it.
Well, and one thing my therapist said was fantastic and, lighthearted, but she said, half the world is on a med for depression and the other half should be. And it's
Yeah.
just not getting the help or not really realizing it, or even the awareness piece.
I was going to add in here too, Ashley. I don't know if you have any answers for this. I'm actually like on a mission to seek out the answers, but are there any laws out there? The closest one I could think of was the discrimination law, but it clearly needs to be amended to include mental wellness or mental illness and anything addiction recovery. If somebody is seeking treatment or help, instead of being shamed and shut down and fired or taken to court and have the kids taken away, like, are there laws out there? Is there anything even remotely close protecting people who know that there's something wrong but are so afraid to go seek help?
There actually is. Now, I don't know about with the children part, because there's still so much stigma with that. But the ADA does protect people seeking treatment. They just upped their protections for people with opiate use disorder a week or two ago, where if somebody is seeking treatment or is in recovery, they cannot lose their job based on disclosing that, as long as they're not currently using illegal drugs. So it protects somebody using MAT. So they can be open about using MAT in the workplace. If they need treatment and they go and seek treatment, they cannot be fired. And if they're in recovery, as long as they're not currently using illegal drugs, it protects them.
Interesting. Okay.
Well,
and there's the same ADA guidelines for pretty much any substances. Alcohol use disorder has the same thing. It's just so substance use disorder has to affect your life in two major areas where it's I think there's like 5 areas it can be, and it has to be at least 2 of them, which we know it does. So
oh yeah. Well, and I think another thing that we discussed though is I think there's nothing in place when a woman or a man goes to court and you are labeled an alcoholic or an addict and you get a label of a mental. Oh my goodness. Non-professionals, anybody can put on the court papers that you do have this diagnosis that they don't even have proof of because it's protected. But I should just speak of myself, but I went through 3 years of courts with different lawyers. I had to have 2 different judges, 3 actually, in different situations. So the judges never followed me, but they literally could say whatever they wanted to say about me, and give me these diagnoses that didn't actually exist in my file. But the court sees I'm a person with substance use disorder and I have mental health issues going on, and immediately there's no, like, I can't get rid of that label. And it's mind blowing. I feel like there's got to be some new laws, some bills, something written up to protect people in recovery and with, mental health, that isn't brought up in, that can't be used in court. So
They used it against me too. If it makes you feel any better, you're not alone in that. But I do have primary custody of my kids now. It was a long fight, but I was able to move them to Florida. So
lovely.
if I can give you any hope, it's that just keep doing the next right thing, and the truth does always come out.
It does, but it's so sad that so many people have to, in the meantime, continue down this path of destruction because they can't seek help faster, because they're too afraid, because that exactly what you just said, it's inevitable. This is going to happen. You're going to have to struggle to get help. You're probably going to have your kids taken away from you, and you're going to have to fight for it tooth and nail, on top of fighting now with a mental illness or addiction, whatever it is. It's double that, from instead of just going and treating it initially. It's so unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree, but I also think that they've come a long way. They have the substance dependent newborn program where, they help moms that are born with children that, newborns that are dependent on substances because they were in active addiction when they were pregnant, and they're actually trying to keep them with their moms. That's society's come a long way with that.
This is true. But I mean, I would say that I think the fact that we are talking about it and we are putting these things on the table helps advocate and makes that awareness. And, but yeah, I feel like, but even within like just the rooms, I feel like it's so important for people to understand, if you're labeling yourself this or that, you're putting that label, you're stigmatizing yourself. And we talked about this too. Recovery language, with the language that you use, is so important. Like, relapse is actually an old made up AA term. That's why once I heard that, I tried not to say, I mean, it's still said a lot. So I'll say reuse or a reoccurrence, because that was a made up word back in those days with that community. So like, just changing the language. I love Mahana. I had never heard mental wellness, but it's like, when you take changing a mental illness into like mental health or mental wellness, it already sounds to me more positive and healing and something I want to be involved in or I want to be a part of.
Well, and that's really funny too, Bridge, because I think I sent you that meme where, and it goes with our idea of the whole connection is the opposite, whatever. So when you replace I with we, it goes from illness to wellness.
Oh, I love that.
Power on.
Yes. Okay. So sorry.
I have
did you have? Yes, please.
That we need to just throw out here, since we're on the air and I can't take it back if I.
It's recorded.
So, like, I'm huge on peer support, right? So maybe we need a program for women going through a divorce or going through a breakup, peer support to help them, so when they do go to court and someone's saying all this stuff, I have this person right here that's helping me, that's giving me these things, and that can vouch for them, and that's been there, but can also help them along the way so they don't fall into a darker, hole.
Absolutely. It's fun. You should say that, because there's this wonderful group website. You can go to sorellasorority.org. There's a lot of things coming down the pipeline, but I know a couple specific things that is going to be the focus, that as a person who sought these resources myself and couldn't find them, will help. We're looking to set it up so that when you are in a moment of crisis, or when you finally get this opportunity or window, it can be a very short window, especially if you're in a not safe place. especially mentally, I know there were small windows of gaps of time where I would be like, yes, I need help. I need to go now. It might only last a day or two for whatever reason. If I reached out and people took their time, or there just wasn't beds available, or there wasn't opportunity, I could talk myself right back into, no, everything's okay. I got this. I'll be fine. And so Sorella is, well, it's a sisters in recovery like community where one, we can individually help each other, support each other, advocate for each other, and especially in the court systems, in the justice systems, and building that. Well, I can't share too much details right now, but like I've had so many things where legal aid, I feel like they should even say that exists, because every time I reached out previously for legal aid, it wasn't available. However, if you get a referral, if something happens, someone or a connection like that for the right people, it's all in who that can happen. So I feel like Sorella is going to be an opportunity for women, and to find each other, to support each other, and to create those connections that don't exist right now today, at least in Minnesota. And the legal system, lawyers, and custody is a big one, but even just going to meetings and just starting recovery.
Finding a sponsor.
I mean, as a female, I would get hit on a lot by males, and I felt unsafe, so I wouldn't go to that place, and then I couldn't go to this place, and then I couldn't go to that event. I wouldn't go to anything because I'd have other females either not like me, not talk to me, be rude to me, or I mean, there's just so many factors. So what I like that, and there's a lot of other great women meetings that I know of, but really starting to find that safe place for women that really do it because they care. They really do want to support and love each other, and really give that belief that it does exist.
Well, and that's the whole point of the Sorella sorority as well. I mean, that's a sisterhood, that the chance to hold each other up, be accountable, and know that you have these safe, loving people who are honestly and genuinely there for you and not to tear you down.
Yes.
Well, I went to She Recovers this past weekend.
Oh, yes.
It was so amazing to see so many women like supporting each other. It was so heartwarming because, it's an area
powerful.
Yes. And I think it was like shocking to, like a lot of them had been through struggles where they didn't have women to support them. And the fact that they could say whatever they wanted and somebody was like there, not judging, was. So I love She Recovers too. They have my respect.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to post a bunch of other ones that I've found that are just great. But okay, let's jump into, so the alarm already went off. I didn't even hear it. There's like a weird clicking sound. I don't know where that's coming from, but okay. But we're going to go into the beeves. Are you ready, Ashley?
I'm ready.
So this segment is live Facebook beeves. And actually Sarah's in studio, so I'm going to flash them to her as well. And so, yeah, really, it's just to get your take. And then, of course, I got to give my take and so you get the idea. Okay, first one. We're just going me one. So there's 8 of them. Here we go. So hopefully you can see this. Oh, there it is. You want to go ahead and read that one? Can you see it?
Don't tell me you're okay. You're not okay. I can smell the hurt inside you. Don't walk away. Talk to me. Beware of the emotional support dog.
Yeah, it's a doggy. The sign says, so a guy's walking by and the sign says, beware of emotional support dog. And the dog's saying all kinds of things. And I think, Sarah, wouldn't you say that like animals can sense our energy and know when we need them?
Oh my God, yes, absolutely. In fact, we just came from a really terrible weekend. My daughter and I had to go put down her dog, who has literally been with her whole life. My daughter will be turning 9 in June, and we got the dog just a couple months prior, and it's literally her dog. And we walked in that room, and I have not seen that dog in quite a few months, because after I left my daughter's father, he kept the dog for himself, and unfortunately she got very sick and he had to put her down, and he was kind enough to allow me to come in and say goodbye with her. But God, they know. Lily, we walked in there and she just, oh my God, her eye, you could see it in her eyes. They just know. And she's always known. She knew the day that I was going to give birth.
Mhm.
She literally wouldn't leave my side. They're so intelligent.
Yes, Ashley, are you familiar with the emotional support service pets that you can have now? I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's just a Minnesota thing, is it?
No, but so taking it in a completely different direction. Like I've gotten some people, they're not, that have complained because certain people say their dog's a therapy dog or it's an emotional, like people get really mad about like the labels if you don't label them correctly. But I think pets in general just,
Absolutely. 100%.
Yes. Max, shout out to Max. We have one at our work, and he, of course, has his owners, full support, but he's at heart. But he, I think, gives us all a little something positive and love there.
Well, and even at my sober house that I manage, I have 2 ladies that have asked and with permission now bring their dogs over for visits. And it's not just that it cheers them up and they get to keep that connection. It cheers the whole house up. Everybody in my house is like in better spirits when those dogs, Sammy, Lucky, oh my God, we love you.
Okay, we're gonna go right to 2. I had to so I find that with any subject, if you can find humor in it, it just makes it worthy. Okay, here we go. Number 2. So describe, Sarah, why don't you go ahead and describe that and read what the sign says.
I think I'm in Simpsons here.
Yep.
And the building reads, child psychiatrist where imaginary friends come to die. How probably accurate. And also, I feel like a little sad.
Yes.
Like, that makes me very sad.
Oh, what do you think of that meme, Ashley? What would be your response if you saw that come up?
oh, it makes me sad too. I want my imaginary friends to come back.
Right? You know what's funny is I've actually done research on this, and they actually say that a form of meditation is daydreaming. And I remember my childhood was a big piece of daydreaming. I still do it. I'll admit it. I still do, because it takes you out of whatever element you're in, and you get to focus on something that makes you feel happy or positive or safe.
I think it's a big coping skill for a lot of kids, myself included, who had a lot of traumatic things. It's a big coping skill.
I thought I remembered it being a sign of intelligence too. Someone said somewhere.
I'll take that.
I think I heard that too, actually. Okay, so we're gonna go to the next beam. This one is great. I want to get it. So, if anybody's familiar with the Bop It game, how about this one? This is reality.
Oh yeah, that's my life.
So it's a Bop It, and with each little thing, there's one for suppress it, ignore it, mock it, deflect it. I can just do it in my head, thinking, yeah, fake it.
Yeah,
But
every
that's so
maladaptive
bad.
coping skill that I have is right there on that screen.
Okay. Oh, we're doing good on time. 10 more minutes. Okay. Okay, this one I've been talking about a lot because I found it like an aha moment. Do you want to read that one, Ashley?
I was with a friend yesterday who said, what most people are doing is not self-care, it's aftercare, and that is not sustainable. And wow, I felt that.
Boom, mic drop. What do you think of that?
I hate the term self-care.
Yeah.
Anyone that knows me knows I hate self-care. Like, that is the worst curse word in my language.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's absolutely 100% true for me, because I do put everybody else's care first. It needs first. And then I'll do my quote unquote self-love, self-care time, but it's very, very minimal. And a lot of days I miss it. I just didn't get that chance. And sadly, sitting in bed at night looking at memes is all I get time to do. So just reading this, I think it was Friday night I read it. I might have been Yeah, I think it was Friday night. I literally the next day and today woke up and took 10 minutes for myself to do things for myself that I knew made me feel good before I started helping anybody else in their whiny ass needs.
But I also think, Bridge, with that, what you're doing is a lot of repairing
Mm,
and fixing,
mhm.
not maintaining.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people forget to just maintain. Take that, like I recently took on this yoga quest where I make time to do yoga every single day, and even days where I really don't want to do it. Afterwards, I feel a lot better, to be honest. Like,
Mhm.
but I have to make myself to do it, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I love that. Just initiating that and putting myself, just my own things first. Like, yes, recovery's first. However, now my position, I love my job, but it's not a job because I love what I do. But like that is what I'm doing. But I'm still, it's not about me. Like I need to make it about me.
I want to know what Ashley thinks for.
Yeah, Ashley, do you have any thoughts on?
I think, like I said, I've always hated self-care because when I did my, training and stuff, I always thought it had to be baths and it had to be, getting a pedicure and getting like all this stuff but that's not what self-care really is. And the more classes I took, my self-care is reading a book. My self-care is
Yeah.
giving myself
Mhm.
time to research something that I'm interested. My
Mhm.
self-care is going to a new place. Like it doesn't have to be relaxing. It just has to be something that you're doing for yourself, something that you love. That's what self-care is. And I think that until I realized that, I never really, taking a bath, great, but that's just to me, normal care.
That's normal care. Yes, I hate when people are like, yes, go take a bath. Well, I'm gonna do that shit anyway. Like that's not self care. Like that's just making sure I'm clean. Like I love what you said. It's like really taking that time to do something I freaking enjoy for myself. 100%.
Mental balance.
Finding the mental balance. Okay, this one's just fun. I love the face. If anybody ever watched Full House, Michelle, but the words are funny. It says, "My face when a coworker starts acting like a supervisor. Please, Susan, act your wage. Act your wage. We all on the same pay rate. Like just I don't know. I found that humorous because not at my job. I'm not even talking about my job now, but my previous job." I'm not gonna say where, but literally the other females in the office had been there for years. They had all this seniority, but they weren't my boss. Okay. They weren't my supervisor, manager, none of that labels, but they made a point to put me in my place right in the beginning. And oh goodness, if I ever had something smart to say or a new idea, well, they shut me down real quick. Like, know my place. But really, we were all the same pay wage. And they really it was that competition BS again.
Oh, the place that I used to work at, even though we were all on the same level, I was repeatedly told I don't get an opinion. When everybody was putting in ideas for something on how to fix something or get something done, as soon as I'd open my mouth, I'd get shut down and glazed over because I was the only female in that job.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay. Ashley, do you have anything that you want to say about this meme? Do you like this meme?
I love Full House.
I want to know why it says Susan and not Karen.
I was just thinking that too. It should be a Karen. Karen?
Or a Carol.
Yeah. Okay. This one I really like because it has to do, I think if you really read into it, I feel like it's a bigger, deeper thing. So it says, before you argue with someone, ask yourself, is that person even mentally mature enough to grasp the concept of different perspectives? Are they open-minded? Because if not, there's absolutely no point. There's no point to continuing that conversation. And for me, I found in my everyday life, there was no point in continuing those relationships.
9.9 times out of 10, the
You know?
answer to this will be no.
You could catch a Karen or what's the male version? Kyle's. You could catch right
A
away on some very simple statements they make. And I'm like, oop, they not at that capacity to understand anything outside their little small world and mind. I'm sorry, this sounds very judgmental, but I'm just like, if they're saying these really small-minded things right away, I know that I'm not taking this conversation further. I'm going to be politely excuse myself. Um, but I realize that they have a lot to learn in life. And sadly, a lot of those people are on their way out of life. They're coming to the end of their life. And it's sad to think that they went through so many years of, whatever rock they came out from under, and they're not, you know, open to reality. I mean, and that's yes, but sorry, I'll stop rambling.
Well,
Thoughts
and
on that,
sometimes
ladies?
I just have to realize it's not my job to teach them. Like, it's not worth my peace to get into this argument because I'm going to be hot for like days after that argument. Like, it's going to bother me. And sometimes just walking away when you can't change someone's mind is power.
Let it go. And I don't know why, but I was instantly thinking of the flat earth people.
My 16-year-old talks about that reference. I didn't know what that was at first. And yes, the flat world people. Okay, and so this next one is hilarious. However, I actually had to message you earlier, Ashley, and do some research myself because I'm like, is this a real thing? Is this real? Like, what is this 988 thing? So if you look at the picture, and I don't know who the actors are, but there's males who's standing in front. He looks confident. It says mental health crisis system or lack thereof. And then there's the hot Aquaman guy. I can't remember his name. About to creep up on him. Yeah. Oh yes, Jason Momoa. And the front guy is Superman. And he's about to run up on him. And it says 988 going live in July of 2022. Ashley. So I'm like, Ashley, what is this? Do you want to talk about this? Can you read what the writing on the right says?
Okay, so it says in July 2022, we will be able to call 988 for mental health emergencies. Then what? We can't imagine 911 without thinking of the first response system, EMS, fire, emergency rooms, regional trauma centers, etc. But emergency rooms aren't designed to treat mental health emergencies, and police are still the default first responders. Now is the time to build a crisis system with mobile teams and crisis stabilization facilities to provide the care callers need. Advocate for federal legislation supporting crisis care at NAMI's Action Center, and learn what an ideal crisis system looks like. So 988 right now is the suicide response crisis line. As of July 16th, 2022, and this actually, President Trump was the one that signed this into law 2 years ago, making 988. So they want a mental health response for mental health crises instead of a criminal response for mental health crises.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Mm-hmm. So so it depends on your state and how. So each state, this is where the issues lie. So it was signed into federal law, but each state is responsible for how they're going to fund this. Some states are adding $1 to like cell phones per person, so that they have an extra $1 on the charge per month, which most people wouldn't really notice. Florida is against that. I'm not sure where you guys are on that, but so eventually, hopefully, if there's, so for overdose calls or for, say, if somebody is having a psychotic break and say it's something that is not criminal, then they'll be able to have a response team that responds just to that can take the person to care right away. So they'll have like drop off centers where they can be evaluated by a psychiatrist and everything that they need, like a 48-hour, 72-hour,
Yes.
where they can send them to treatment, or they can send them to, they can regulate their meds. So instead of sending them to jail, then it would be.
Well, just the first responders. Like, I'm thinking of my experiences. they would come over, okay, for a wellness check, or I maybe called them myself, or I had somebody call them or whatever. Right away, I felt like a criminal. Right away, they're questioning me. They were saying things to me that immediately made me feel defensive, like I had to lie. Made me feel judged. And what do you think I did? That just totally set me up for making things worse for myself. That I love this concept because I felt like there might have been that one paramedic. I remember a one paramedic who, for whatever reason, did not make me feel like I was being judged. Actually seemed like they really cared, and they were in the health industry to help people. And I know that because of just a few words and listening, they were able to call me really quickly and like further me to go seek that help. Where when I had a cop, or even just a woman I talked to on the phone would be so rude.
Can I jump in?
Yes. I think that it's so important I think it is going to be wonderful to separate that. So the cops that need to handle, the criminal fighting and robberies and all that can do that. But when it comes to mental health, they got those experts ready to go for that.
But so here's what I'm actually very curious about learning about this just now. Even though they're not going to treat it as a criminal case, which it's not, it shouldn't have been, and whatever. And I think it's absolutely 100% necessary and needed. What is it going to do for your record? Is it going to put a black mark on your record like it already does now? As a person who, again, as I was just mentioning, is so afraid to have that done, or the shame associated with it, I don't want to call it. Why the hell, if it's still going to have the same effect, would I call that number?
Mm-hmm.
So how are they going to promote that to make people feel secure and comfortable calling?
Right.
Well,
Well, it'll probably be different with every state too.
Yeah, each state's going to be different, but it's not going to be, the same people respond to 911 calls. But the big thing is that a lot of these crises, the mental health crises, don't have to necessarily go even further than a phone call. Like, people that are trained correctly might not even need anyone to respond. They might just need someone to talk to them and convince them to go get checked out at the center, or to, talk their family members into bringing them somewhere. But as soon as someone sees a uniform, it escalates a situation. And I'm not saying that law enforcement or first responders are doing anything wrong per se, but it escalates a situation. You think you're going to jail, and you go to the highest peak of, sometimes it's just a matter of calling someone and someone saying, hey, why don't you take them to X, Y, and Z and get them checked out? Or why don't, they might not know where they can go.
Right. Yes. And I specifically remember an incident where I called. I couldn't get a hold of anybody. And really, there was nobody in my life that cared, or even just, I think they were too scared to even like help me or want to do anything or put any kind of effort, I feel like. But I feel like I made the call because I knew I was getting at a really bad state, and I knew what I was trying was not working. But immediately, you see that authority. I could tell the questions that they were asking me, they're just trying to build a case, get the evidence to, and of course, when I got to the hospital or whatever place, right away, it was threatening. Like, the way I was talked to was I was being threatened. Like, I have to do this or I have to do that. Where now there's warm lines out there that I think help a lot, where people could just call and say, here's what's going on. They can just be heard, and at that point feel that, okay, I'm not going to get in trouble, I'm not going to be judged or whatever, threatened. And I feel like for me, when I found those people, it allowed me to finally open up and really get the actual help that I needed, instead of having to hide and pretend and lie, to myself and other people. So putting that shield up. So, okay. Ashley, do you have any final thoughts before we go into the last meme?
No, I think everyone should check out 988. If you go to NAMI, they have like a video on what the perfect system would look like. And it's very cool. It's going to take a lot to get there, but everyone should check it out.
Absolutely. And you know what? I know it's 9:06 and we're running a little over, but I kind of had a surprise clip for Sarah. So listeners, if you want to check out, feel free. This is going to be women empowerment theme. So Sarah and I got a taste of the podcast life back in, actually it was on my birthday. You know, when I went to find the clip, the podcast or whatever, it was on my birthday. I forgot about that. And it was wonderful. So it's called Attitude for Gratitude. It's a Minneapolis, Illinois podcast, and they do Friday nights here in Minneapolis at 9:30, I think it is. 9? I haven't been listening to it lately. I've just been so busy, but it's consistent and it's Fridays. And the two main hosts are Tim and Tad, and then well, now I think Elena stepped up more, but there's a female too that she'll yeah, she's her producer. Yep, now she's more stepping up. But we went on that show because we wanted to talk about a lot of things that especially when I've heard their show before, I don't think just ever got brought up because they're dudes. They don't know, whatever. And I got to tell you, Sarah and I took over that show that night. It was fantastic. It was 2 hours and I feel like hit on every little pinpoint that we really wanted to bring to the table. And what was funny is I remember I was first very nervous. So after like the first half hour, I finally calmed down. And then I got a little, what was it called? Confident, I would say. And I found this, I want to play this clip that really, I think kind of ties everything in together that Ashley, your clip shared, and just the notion of, females, especially, like I said, we really got to build each other up. We've got to unify and speak more, and we don't have to be perfect. In fact, my reality is, as long as I'm doing the best I can, and I know I'm doing, what I feel is right in my heart, that's damn good enough. And I don't need to be perfect. I'm good enough.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yes. And so this clip, I'm gonna try to get it right to the point because, like I said, it was like a 2-hour show. Sarah, do you want to talk about some of your highlights to that show quick while I get the clip ready?
Other than getting a bunch of adult men to play with my 8-year-old daughter's crafts that I had stockpiled in my car. That was kind of a while ago.
Bracelets?
Yes, they were making bracelets and little string, whatever it was. But no, that podcast I enjoyed because I too was very nervous and I was very fresh into the recovery world. New into sobriety, also fresh out of my second treatment. I was on a commitment at the time and I was going through a huge legal battle for custody. So I had a lot of things going on in my mental health. I'm very surprised. It was almost like fuel to the fire. I used it for momentum, if anything, but I can see how easily any person could just want to give up and say, screw it. What's the point? Why even bother? And if I have to work this hard, why? Like, it's not worth it. And then they lose their children or their lives or whatever it is. So,
okay, I got it ready. I'm excited. So,
Bluetooth connected.
I'll post the clip later where you can find the full thing if you want. So, it was about, I think, 8 or 9 months ago. I can't remember. My life's been a blur. I'm so busy. But this clip, I specifically started talking about why it's so important to label yourself or call yourself as you feel comfortable, and that, is your truth and your authentic, reality. And if you walk into certain meetings and you think that you have to call yourself an alcoholic or an addict or, all kinds of labels, whatever labels there are out there, that's not the reality. It's what is true to you in your heart, I believe. Because really, once I started realizing I don't need to be a sheep, I don't need to follow the protocol. Like, I should be able to say what I feel. I heard other people in the room saying really all kinds of things. A lot of people just were laughs or, they had their own thing. I wanted to say something that was true in my heart. And I got a little, it wasn't like they were playing devil's advocate, just the other side. It was wonderful because we got to talk about all the different perspectives and the sides. And so it was funny because so at the beginning of the clip, that person was making a stance of why they like to call themselves an addict or whatever, which was valid in one sense. However, it was going against what I was trying to point out in this book that I had just read on Warriors in Recovery and why it's so important to be able to call yourself what you feel is true to you. And so it's so funny because at the beginning of the clip, he's making his point. I interrupted. I got confident. I actually found myself interrupting and making a point. I'm so proud of myself after I listened to this. And something we talked about on the radio
Bravery.
show. Yeah, bravery, that courage. And then it's funny because at the end of the clip, he ended up changing his opinion or his where he was standing on it, or at least I could hear that he was open-minded. And so I, like Sarah, we were just talking about this, it's so wonderful when you are open-minded, and I am too. I just love learning. And so when I can have a dialogue with someone, not a debate, an open floor dialogue about our viewpoints, and they can change my mind or just help me see something I wasn't even seeing before. I am not defensive. I am not that person where you're wrong and this is how you do it. I love change. I love learning new things and seeing other viewpoints. So anyway, enough rambling. Ashley, are you still there? Sorry.
I am. I love that you changed a guy's mind. You
Oh,
need to
get
teach
ready.
me how to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, here you go. So it's 3 minutes long. And like I said, attitude for gratitude. So we're talking about labels. Here we go.
Like, look, NA's my jam. Do I like some of the old school stuff of AA? Absolutely. But I'm just letting you know that I was always, I was before, like, I didn't find my group till I found NA. I didn't find my people. And that's just my story. But by and large, I'm going to continue to scream that I'm a drug addict. And because I have a good track record, I have a good job, I do a lot of stuff in the community. And people now being CAD, it doesn't mean I'm going to rob you, stab you, or I'm going to smoke all the meth in the world and do whatever I do. That's not what it means. And sometimes, it took other people a long time to forget that. But so if I can add all the good things I do and break this, that's why I choose to be a drug addict, because it helps break the stigma. And so does saying that you're a person in long-term recovery, because it's trying to change association. But I mean, I don't know. People.
First and foremost, we are human beings. So
Hell yeah.
let's stop calling ourselves and our loved ones addicts and druggies. We're all loved people that might have an issue with alcohol or drugs. I don't understand the point of calling ourselves addicts. I once heard someone say that we shouldn't call ourselves fat, but I couldn't grasp why until it was explained. So here it is. You ready, Melanie? Melanie Moberg, great book. Here it is. Our body has muscle and our body has fat, along with bones and all the rest of it. We wouldn't call ourselves bones or muscle. So why are we calling ourselves fat? Instead, try saying something like, I am working toward a better version of myself. Words matter. When I started catching myself saying negative things about myself and replacing them with more positive options, the love and respect I had for myself started to change. I don't define myself by one fragment of my life or one addiction, and you should either. If alcohol or drugs have created a life you no longer desire, I encourage you to choose your words differently and notice the difference. So when I started saying bridge recovery, for me, that's I'm recovery. I'm in recovery. I'm living this thing with this family. I'm a part of something positive and big and important. And I'm not just this one addiction that I keep labeling myself with it in the different meetings that I go to, and trying to be mindful of, oh, what meeting am I at now? Sometimes I had to get out right away and get to a meeting, and I would be put off if someone's like, I'm this or I'm that. I'm like, oh, what do I say? Am I welcome here? I don't know. So now I just like to wrap it all in one big
There's actual
bundle.
science behind that, though, too. I learned that, so like if you're continuously referring to yourself as an alcoholic or a drug addict, what do alcoholics and addicts do? They drink and do drugs. So you're actually preparing your brain for a relapse, is what they say.
Right.
The scientific facts prove that. And so like I get that aspect of Bridge. Did you talk about the bill thing?
Oh, and what? Yeah, I'm reading the first edition of the AA Big Book, and turns out the originals, the elders, I mean, they didn't even call themselves alcoholics. They called themselves ex-alcoholics, Bill ex-alcoholics. So if you read that in the first edition, they didn't even say, I'm an alcoholic. They said they're ex-alcoholics.
Yeah, because otherwise, like what you were just saying, Tad, that's just basically the self-fulfilling prophecy,
Right.
like
And-
idea.
Mhm.
And I get that, and I also think it's important that anyone, just like with everything, is able to identify themselves how they feel comfortable.
Absolutely,
If,
absolutely.
if
And I
you
don't
feel
wanna, like,
comfortable
give
identifying
everyone
yourself
that
as that, then do it.
100%.
If you feel comfortable identifying yourself as a yellow Red Bull, then go ahead.
If you're proud of it, flaunt it.
Go ahead.
But I wasn't. I did not like being labeled this thing. It just felt like this heavy weight, this burden that I had to like put it out there. Here's what I am. And I just even talking about it now, it makes me feel like this. When I say bridge recovery and that happy person you want to punch in the face every time I say it, I know.
Lifts you up.
But it makes me happy. And that's because I chose that
You're proud of
word,
it.
and I'm proud of it. And I'm
What do you think? Does that bring back memories?
Yes.
Girl. And it was great because I just posted the meme that I forgot to flash. That's what.
She said.
And it does not. It says, that's what she. Like, that's powerful, like, and I feel like, and they were great. They really were. I mean, they were open to a lot of things that they didn't even know. But like, if you caught that, he was very adamant about saying this for his purpose, for standing up for whatever. But then at the end of it, he talked about how you referenced that it's that
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
yes. And so being aware of that, and that's what I loved about Melanie's point and just where I've been reading. It's like that was where I really started the change in my own self. My inside job was when I was able to say what I fucking wanted to say. Sorry, what I wanted to say. And that was just a small piece, but it was the start for me to feel empowered and speak up more. And here I am with all you lovely ladies. Okay, well, that's it. That's a wrap. Let's end it. Thank you so much, Ashley. Do you want to tell people where they can find the recovery revolution recovery live? Is it Thursdays?
Yes, we're Thursday nights. It depends on what time zone you're in. I'm in Eastern time zone, so it's at 8 p.m. my time, so 7 p.m. Central time. And you can find it on all the podcast platforms, Recovery Revolution Live. There's also a Facebook page called Recovery Revolution.
It's video, and that's a bunch of you guys that you bring on like crazy, like awesome guests.
Yeah, this week we have Randy Grimes. So
Cool.
An NFL football player. Then next week we have Honesty Liller. So
Wow, that's so amazing.
yeah, but I mean, what I respect a lot about, J.R. Weaver is the one who started it, and he brought me on because he thought it was important to have a female voice. So they're very supportive.
Yeah. And that's the dudes that I like are my friends. Like genuinely, they're supportive and they're not threatened by strong females or smart females. And like I actually have genuine guy friends that I, actually have my back and they know I got their back. And we go to each other and there's that mutual connection without any second agendas or expectations.
Yeah,
Okay.
they root for you. That's the type of friends you need to have, the friends that root for you.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thanks everybody for listening. And just give me time. It's been a long day. So tomorrow I'll make sure in the comments to post all the lovely links that might not have been included. And I hope everybody has a great week. And I'm going to go ahead and play the inspirational music, but I'm ending this broadcast. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful.
You're welcome. All right, have a good night. Bye, everybody.